Here we are back with the Porsche 911 Carrera, and we're here at Porsche of Stevens Creek, who have graciously lent us this vehicle, this amazing vehicle. And now it's time for the long review, so let's really go into depth about this car and talk about what is so deeply special and why is this car worth the entire $116,000 that you're being charged for it. So let's start with just general about Porsche 911, or let's talk about just Porsche lineup. So Porsche starts with their 718, which is the Boxster and the Cayman. That's really their entry-level vehicle, and we do have a review with the Porsche 718 Cayman GTS. I'll link that down below, so check that out if you're interested in the entry-level Porsche. But for this one, we're going to look at the 911 lineup, which is right after the 718 lineup. So you have 718, 911, and then you've got 918, and then there's like special vehicles which aren't really included in the lineup. Now the 911 is the widest lineup. It goes from the base, which is the Carrera, but it goes all the way up to the GT3 RS, GT2 RS, and those heavy performance vehicles, which go from like about $100,000 to about $400,000 or $500,000. So let's talk about why is the starting of the 911 lineup really the best way to get into the Porsche world, if you were to say. So this car comes with a twin turbo Boxer 6 engine, which produces 443 horsepower. That engine is able to take this car from 0 to 60 in just 3.5 seconds, and that's effectively because this car weighs only 3,100 pounds. 3,100 pounds is quite light for a 4-seater vehicle that you can take on road trips. Now, that's one more thing that's really special about this car. You can take it on road trips, and you can't say that about a lot of sports or even supercars. And that's because this is a 4-seater, it's a comfortable vehicle with plenty of legroom. Other stuff about this car is that even though I just said that, you know, it's a car that you can take on road trips, it's still a car that's performance. And it's so performance oriented that it actually set a time of 7 minutes and 34 seconds on the Nurburgring. 7 minutes and 34 seconds, let's put that into perspective. The Porsche GT2 RS, which is the fastest or second fastest, however you want to call it, car around the Nürburgring, that's at a time of right around 6 minutes and 47 or so seconds. This car is just around 45 seconds slower. This car is a quarter of the price, and this car has double the amount of seats. Let that sink in for some time. Since this car can go so fast around a track and can really take you from SF to LA without hurting your back or something. You know, if you were to take that road trip inside of a supercar, you'd be sore by the end of that ride. Let's talk about some other stuff about this car, and I think for that I want to come up here to the front end. If you look at these headlights look so aggressive. Now, this is what the old Porsche headlight used to look like. Back then, Porsche was not as recognized, I guess you could say, as it is today, and that's really since they upped the look of their car. They really made it look a whole lot more modern. And I think that's when I started to really get into the Porsche world. And I think the headlights is a big thing about what makes this car so aggressive. If you look, they've got 2 bulbs here, both that are facing right out front, just screaming that this car is coming at you. I think that the headlights just look absolutely gorgeous on this car. Of course, up on the front, they also have the amazing grille and the Porsche logo, and then you've got a large hood where there's actually quite a lot of front space. And you can't also, of course, say that about other cars, since the amount of room that you get in this car is unparalleled to any other supercar or even sports car. And that's also what makes this car capable of taking on a road trip. In addition to all of this, this car even has the Porsche PDK transmission. Now let me talk for a minute about PDK. PDK is the transmission that is the best in the world, and that's not a claim that you can say about really, of course, any other transmission. And that's because this is a dual clutch that shifts so insanely fast. In fact, we'll have some driving clips in this review, and you'll see how crazy fast this car shifts. Now, generally, I'd recommend that you go for a manual transmission, because of course a manual vehicle is so much more fun than a automatic vehicle. But in the PDK, you can't compare a manual because you can't get shifts that fast out of any other transmission. So if you're ever going to get a Porsche, take my word for it and get the PDK transmission. Any Porsche owner will tell you that the PDK is worth it, and it's worth the full $3,500, which is honestly a small price to pay for what that transmission offers. So that's pretty much it for the exterior of this car. Let's hop in and let's look at some of the other stuff about the interior, because that's where you're going to be most of the time when you're driving a car like this. Now we're here on the inside of the 911 Carrera, and we're going to look at some of the real interior quirks and even features that make this car special on both the exterior and the interior. Let's start with the most obvious one, which is cup holders. If you did see the previous two reviews, you'll be familiar with this, but let's just go over it once more since it's so nice. The cup holders, you just pop it out from here, and you've got your two hidden cup holders, which just pop out. They're both extendable if you need, and you can close it for a cleaner look. Of course, cup holders, we've talked about it before, so let's close them up and go ahead. To close it, you just push it right in, like so, and you close up the panel. That's cup holders, but along the line of cup holders, let's talk about interior storage space. For any practical vehicle, you're going to have interior storage room, and the Porsche is no disappointment in that. In fact, the Porsche has the cup holders, as we just said. It even has a glove box. It's got door pockets. It's got a gigantic frunk that we showed you earlier, and it's got rear seats. Now, the rear seats, you may not be using them, but they're great for storage space. The Porsche 911 is really the ultimate daily driver in a way. Of course, there's other cars that are also ultimate, but the Porsche 911 is something that can lap the track and take you from work to and from every day. We all know about Bose. Bose makes amazing audio equipment, and they've added that into this vehicle. Now, when you're driving, of course you want to hear the engine, but there are some times where you're just cruising on the freeway and you want to listen to music, and you can do that in this car with no disappointment. It's a 555 watt system with 12 surrounding speakers in such a small cabin. That makes a big difference. In fact, that option costs $1,600, but if you're planning on keeping this car for a while, that might be a good option for you. So look into that. Let's talk about the sunroof. Now, the sunroof was something that my parents would always say, you know, we would never buy a car without a sunroof. And this car does offer that. So we've got a sunroof that opens up also, and it's actually quite big. It's got quite a lot of viewing room. That's $1,500 options. Let's talk about the premium upgrades package. The premium upgrades package offers a lot in this vehicle. Door pockets, seat heaters, side mirrors, rear view mirrors, and like 20 other things. Now, the side mirror and rear view mirror, I don't know why is that included in the description. It's hard for me to process, but it's there. So maybe there's something about the side mirror that they do. Now, I do know one thing that they do about the side mirror, and that's the auto dimming side mirrors. And that's quite helpful. That's really helpful in a car like this, since there's going to be people that just keep their brights on. God knows why. It's so annoying. But the auto dimming side mirrors do help to nullify that effect. So I really do love that option. I think that any Porsche should have that. Of course, the instrument cluster in this vehicle is just like any other instrument cluster, but I think the one thing that I love most about this instrument cluster is the display. There's one circle that's just a display, and that's customizable to really whatever you want. And that just shows that Porsche is going towards the future, and allowing that customization is great. Other than that, the interior is minimalistic, but it's also not minimalistic. Now, what I mean by that is that they didn't put in unnecessary stuff, but the stuff that they did put in is definitely useful. Of course, they've got their display, and they've got a variety of buttons here. Of these buttons, they offer a lot of features. That's sport mode, suspension, traction control. Of course, you've got your gear shifter, the PDK. You've got the little PDK badging here. And it's just, it's everything that you need, and it's not overdone, which is nice. The Porsche 911, especially this 911, is an amazing vehicle, and you can pick it up here at Porsche of Stevens Creek for just $116,000. I think that you'd agree that the $116,000 is quite a bargain for a vehicle like this, especially after looking at this, driving shots of the vehicle. Let's jump to that. So as you can see here in these rolling shots, the Porsche 911 is an incredibly stable vehicle. In fact, the 911 performs quite well on these open roads, and if it's performing so well here, you can only imagine how well it's going to do on the racetrack. One thing that you can also kind of see if you look closely is the shifts are going insanely fast with the PDK. The PDK transmission, as I can tell you, I was inside of the car, it shifts so fast. I've never been in anything that shifts as fast as that. It's really uncomparable to any manual shifting vehicle. One other thing that you'll be able to notice is that there's really no body roll in the 911. As you can see, as it's taken over the car and when we're taking turns with the vehicle, it really just stays planted to the ground. And that's what you want to see, of course, in a performance vehicle. And secondarily, it's also a driver vehicle for really any day. So it's always nice to see that they've taken the two aspects of the car and somehow they've managed to get the best of both worlds, which is not something that you see quite often. The Porsche 911 has done an amazing job, and right here in this last turn you'll be able to see just how beautifully it handles, and then it lands right there without having any sorts of movement. And then we go for an acceleration and get this last pass.
If you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button. If you didn't, check out the crazy things in the short review. Make sure to check those out, since there's some stuff that we mentioned in those reviews that we didn't in these. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.